We're so excited for this podcast and joining forces with the National High School Basketball Coaches Association. BCAM has joined in this venture to educate, to navigate, to find the best ways that coaches and players can flourish with all the new changes going on in today's game. Coach Young, how about having the renowned coach Phil Martelli launch this venture? I mean, his name rings with respect throughout the coaching industry on all levels. What are your thoughts about landing Coach Martelli to kind of give us a lay of the land, so to speak?
Excited to have Phil Martelli on this podcast on this very important topic of youth athletics. And in our particular situation, the changing world that we're living in, as far as the amount of money that's being spent at the youth level, and kind of educating everyone involved: players, coaches, parents, families, on what it is all about to be a student athlete and to grow as a player. Phil Martelli is an unbelievable coach and speaker and presenter and clinician, and we're ecstatic about having him on this podcast.
You know, one mantra that, we talk about as coaches and teachers is knowledge is power. And this venture is about giving the power to the parents, the students, and the coaches to make really good decisions. And I can't think of anyone better than Coach Martelli. You know, one thing that coaches all strive for, I think more than the wins, is respect. And Coach Martelli has that in spades. I mean, his words mean a lot. And I think we're going to learn a lot from his experiences, his networking, and just his overall perspective on the game. Coach?
Our audience will be excited to learn from Coach Martelli because of his experience, his love of the game, and how it should be taught, and how we can help, student athletes reach their potential. And so a big part of this is, as educators, we are here to serve and to help our student athletes and their families navigate the new world we live in. So excited to have Coach, and can't wait to start this interview.
Well said. Here's our interview with Coach Phil Martelli. Coach Martelli, welcome to our podcast series.
Why, I'm really appreciative of being with you. And this is not fluff, but I consider coaches and teachers, whether they be high school or middle school, I consider you everyday heroes, because you are providing so much for young people and you're doing it on a daily basis. And oftentimes, you're being put in adversarial positions for no apparent reason. But anybody that gives to young people like coaches give, they have no bigger fan, no bigger advocate than myself.
Thank you for that. Coach, we see coaches as bridge builders, people that can take their players from one place to another. Well, we have new terrain in 2025. We're navigating new rules, new emphasis, new styles. How does a bridge builder start to create a path in this 2025 era? Coach Young, Coach Archer, jump in as well. We're navigating new terrain, and we'd like to give our families, our coaches, and our players, our student athletes, a new playbook for this new terrain.
Well, I would suggest, and again, it's a matter of semantics. I don't see the young people that you're working with as players. I see them as young people. They truly are, because of what's going on the next level, they truly are student athletes. And more of an emphasis on the student. So how can they take this game or any extracurricular activity, how can they take that and make themselves a better student, make themselves a better person? And if I was to, if they gave me this power and said, what would you wish for every coach, for every teacher, for every administrator? I would ask everybody to look in the mirror and say, do I have a real relationship? Do I have a real relationship with that young person? Do I have a real relationship if I'm the the basketball coach? Do I have a real relationship with my athletic director? And if I'm the athletic director, do I have a real relationship with my administration? And if I'm administrator, do I have a real relationship with my school board? Not a text, not an email, not a well we put out a guide and you didn't follow this guide or only follow this guide. And to me, a real relationship is simply this. Do you know all that you need to know about those that you think you know? That's a real, to me, that's a real relationship. And I have a real long story, but I'll give you this example. When I was a high school coach, I took a kid out of the game for not listening to me, and I didn't put him back in. And the next day, his mom called me, and I assumed what you guys would assume. This was going to be about playing time. And you know what this mom told me? She said, "You know my son." And I answered yes. She said, "Then you know he's deaf in his left ear. He never heard you."
Ouch.
So was that a real relationship? No. No. It was basically a power relationship. I'm the coach, you're the player. Listen, but if you don't know everything that you need to know, and it's a lot of work, then that would be the power that I would, if I had a wand, I'd say to everybody, let's work on our relationships and make sure that they're real relationships. Because when you have a real relationship, then you can have a corrective course. But if you don't have a real relationship, then it just feels like it's all punitive for both the player and for us as coaches when it comes. A real relationship is built on knowing what you need to know about those you think you know.
Love that. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Doesn't matter what era you're coaching in. Those seem to be the core values of what a coach player relationship should be all about. So, coaches, weigh in as well. Coach Archer, I'd like to get your thoughts on this too. Parents today, every child is the apple of their eye. They want the best for them, and they love them more than anyone else. How can we help parents help their child reach their dreams?
That's a great question because it has become in so many ways the parent's dream, where they want the child to go or the player to go to the best school, get the playing time, get drafted, etc. And it has become a culture of the youth basketball where the parents, are making all the arrangements for the weekend meetings with all the other parents, and kids maybe even don't want to be there. So the parents are probably the number one challenge that we have.
Coach Martelli, do you have thoughts on that?
I think that there's two things that jump to me. One, if we could look our parents in the eye and explain to them that we wholeheartedly support them loving their child. You love them, I'll coach them. And as I'm coaching them, I will learn to love them. But I can't start off with a ninth grader that walks into the gym and they're expecting you to love. You don't know them. We really don't know them. So if parents would love and allow us to coach, and I'm saying even go further than that, because I'm preaching to the choir here. You know that the math teacher in your buildings faces those same challenges, right? He or she faces those same challenges. The disciplinarian in this schools faces the same challenges. The director of the play faces the same challenges. So if we could get them to love and to truly be parental, truly being parental is saying yes when yes is the appropriate answer and saying no when no is the appropriate answer. Like, again, preaching, you don't have to be friends with your kids. You got to parent them. You have to truly parent them. And for us as coaches, one of my suggestions again is lines of communication. Are they open? Do you hold a parent meeting? Do you hold a parent meeting at the beginning of your year? Do you have a parent meeting at the end so you can go over, hey, look, this is how we're going to go about our summer development program, right? Do you do that? Do you engage them? Do you engage them in celebrating these young people? Win a championship or not? Are we having end of year celebrations for simply to say to the parents, thank you for entrusting your young person with me? Okay. But it's also an opportunity for them to say thank you to you. Here's an adult who cares about their child in a world, right? None of us face what these kids face in high school. None of us, none of us have ever turned on CNN like when we were in high school and said, what do you mean they walked into a school and they shot it up? Or what do you mean like hate? No. This machine is supposed to be a wealth of information. No, it's a wealth of different disinformation and hate. How can we help them, and how can they help us? And the only way that I see that is it's not dictatorial. It's not, let me have your son. I hope you come to the games. No, I think it's a line of communication that they have to understand is a lot more important things to discuss than the fact that he only took 6 shots on Friday night. And if they're not willing to enter into that level of communication, hey, seems a little, is everything all right? You're not prying, just trying to be there to help. And if there's rules that negate like privacy rules, I just throw my hands in the air and say, please let us coach, which is coach them. Yes, coach them about hoops, but I want to coach them about life. I want to be an assist academically, but I can only if information is being shared and there's open lines of communication.
You mentioned that word love, and that's the place that parents really start with their child. What mistakes are they making, some parents, in this process of their child being recruited? Like, what mistakes do you see parents making that may make their child unrecruitable? Maybe we can help them show what they're doing wrong and maybe navigate a way where they can maybe make better decisions and help their child reach their dreams.
Remove all comparisons from their conversation. Because Dave got a scholarship, please don't come and tell me that your son outscored Dave and he should get that scholarship. Comparisons are not, they're lethal. They're really very lethal. And I think the same thing on our teams, right? Comparisons. So when I was in high school, I would say we absolutely. I'll meet with anybody. I'll meet with anybody. And this is before FaceTime and Zoom. No, we'll meet. But here's what we will not do. You will not come in here and you will not talk about another kid and a family. But if you want to do that, if you think that that's what this is going to be, then they're coming in. And so now that those parents will sit in, like, do I think that's productive? No. But you coming in and tearing somebody else down is not productive. I think that established lines of communication for us as teachers, for us as coaches, for us as administrators is vitally important to, and in recruiting, it's a big deal. right? It's a
Have
big
you
deal.
ever, coach, as in obviously without names, just maybe a yes or no, have you ever not recruited an athlete because you felt the parents were just too high maintenance?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so. Coach Young, the Michigan Association is the largest coaches association in the nation. You oversee a lot of coaches. What mistakes do you see parents making, at our level?
I think the idea of we always need to play every single weekend. We need to go somewhere and play and play and play and try to get seen, as opposed to, I get it, playing is important, but getting better, building your skill level, improving on your weaknesses, having goals in the off season or even during the season to get better, listening to those around you that are educated to the idea of what it's going to take. Um, that's where I think we're really missing the boat. And I think as our organization, the National High School Basketball Coach Association, the main thing is we can educate in a lot of different ways on what it's really all about and not continually traveling and spending money and going all over everywhere to play games and games and games. You know, we got to shoot it better. We got to handle it better. We've got to make better decisions. We got to be able to play off the ball. And that's our job as teachers and coaches, is to educate the players and our coaches and our families. And I see that as a huge divide that I think we can try to bring that together over time.
Dan, if I could just that idea of play and play and play and play and play, uh, some steps by the NCAA to limit the number of games and not starting late and starting on time and doing all those things. I sometimes sit back when I was out there on the road, and Dave has heard me say this in NABC meetings. Like I'll scratch my head. If you're the eighth man and you know the highest profile team in Michigan, if I'm the eighth man and I travel every weekend twice a day, we're going to play 2 games and I'm an eighth. So maybe I get 10 minutes. You're telling me that for all that money, I played 20 minutes and maybe maybe you can play 3 games on a Saturday. I forget that rule. I do believe that bringing it back and saying, you know what, there's joy in playing with the dudes you played with in CYO or played with in middle school and being in the gym with them, or like no one goes to a park anymore. And that's a societal thing because even parks aren't safe anymore. But I love the idea of taking a respite from this travel. And it's a monster, right? It's certainly that proverbial how do you eat an elephant where you got to go one bite at a time, because the same thing is happening in volleyball and the same thing is happening in field hockey, and you have 10-year-olds having to be on travel teams. And I'll go to high school, and again, this is a tangent, but it really used to piss me off. It used to, and on the other side, it gave me a greater appreciation for some kids. We would say, well, where's Dan this weekend? Oh, he went to his prom. Well, aren't they supposed to go to prom, for Christ's sake?
Right.
Right? Like, isn't that part of this whole, like, we're not just in this to put out Autobots who play basketball. We're in this to produce better students, better players, but most importantly, better people. So when they go to college, are they engaging in societal activity? Not, like, come on, man, frat houses have. No, I'm talking about, like, are they aware enough of all that's going on for life-changing moments could happen when you're in college? And to me, the high school memories of the prom, of a community service, or those type of thing, we as coaches and teachers That's what we want to put out there. This is not just about a better player. This is about a better student, a better player, and most importantly, a better person.
No question.
One of the things we talk about a lot is player development. And I think coaches and players and parents all want the same thing. They want that child to be the best they could possibly be, not only in basketball but in character. So if we have a game plan for a child, I would think it'd be a differentiated game plan where it's not a one size fits all. But coaches, please weigh in on, okay, if at what level should we start looking to travel? At what level should we start looking to maybe spend a little bit more money to get the right coach or the right team? Is there a time? Is that 11? Is it 12? Is it 13? Is there a number, or is it just depends? Like, how does a parent go about making that right call? Because he might have different people in his ears telling him different things.
Right.
So let's lean on some expertise in this discussion here and give some real advice for these parents.
I think we talk about who's the influencer, and like I follow and wholeheartedly believe everything Phil is saying. And if the parent comes back and says, "Yeah, but his AAU coach says this, and he's tied in with so and so, and that's a better shot for college," you lose the oomph that you have. And I would say, if anybody tries to have their kid travel before they're 12, that's out. And I think of maybe when they're 12 and 13, maybe once, maybe once in the summer. But other than that, you should be playing local. So, who's going to make that decision as far as who influences the parent?
Coach Martelli, you have any thoughts on the developmental process? Like, when, as a college coach, when will your son start looking at these high school players, or is he even looking at many of them now with the new rules?
Right.
Like, is it fool's gold to be playing in a tournament 3 states away when you're 10 years old?
You know what I really that jumped out at me was the developmental, and we as coaches, I'm going to throw this term at you guys. We've educationally, we are now creating IEPs for everybody. So why wouldn't we for our players? And I would suggest to the parents, like, if you want to be in on that, not the knowledge of it, but certainly these parents walk into schools and they're saying, look, this is what we can do to address your son's special characteristics, not deficiencies, but like everybody has gifts, and to have that I hadn't thought of it that way, like the individual development. I'm more of like when I was a high school coach, yeah, we worked out and we did all this and we did skill development, and we didn't call it that, but we did our warm-ups and then we played. I would like all of us to consider in our skill development that we teach them how to play. I'm talking about really play. Like, how do you play 3-on-3-on-3? And how do you play 5-on-5 with winners? How do you do all that? Because intrinsically, we're working on their organizational skills, which is what they're going to need for life, their leadership skills, which they hope they use for life, right? How about resolution of conflict? All of you guys have been in a pickup gym. Resolution of conflict was part of the action.
Right.
Part of the action. And now do this. Because how do they resolve it, right? How do they resolve conflict when they're together? Now it's violence.
Yes.
Right? Resolution of conflict when they're traveling. What do? They leave that team and they join another team.
Yeah.
And they'll say, how did I resolve my conflict? I left that team. So to me, I am really, really, really emphatic about this idea. We must have collaborative effort here. right? So, and I think we've come, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are boots on the ground. I think we've come a distance. It used to be when Dave Archer started this, it used to be the high school coach and then the summer coach. And then maybe like, how do we all do this? And you are absolutely positively right. The parent was in the middle, and the parent went with the person that they thought was most influential, right? And for a long time in my career, the parent was even out of the recruiting story, right? The NCAA would say one call a week. So you're like, I have to call the influencer. I I had to call the kid. And the parent was like, yeah, then thank God they said parents can come on visits, unlimited phone calls, and but they still have to be in charge of that. Like the parent still has to say, yeah, we just don't want him called after 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, or we don't want him called this week because he's in state accreditation exams or whatever it would be. Own it. You own it. Parents, please own it. And back to this idea of I'm a little bit Pollyannish in this. I think we have to let the smoke clear in that we had an imperfect storm come together. We had college guys getting COVID years. We had the transfer thing go nuts and say it doesn't matter how many times you transfer, right? And then call for what it is. You want to pacify others by saying NIL. I'm going to say it's not NIL. It's pay for play. And so those three things come together. So who got left out? The high school kid got left out.
Right.
Now, not the top 30 high school kid, right? That kid didn't get left out. He still had choices. A player 125 to 375, if there is such a ranking, if any of that ranking makes sense. But I'm talking about, you know what? That kid that belongs at Bowling Green was left out.
Right.
And to me, I believe we're going to come back. I do believe we're going to come back as long as they hold, and that's hard to say with the NCAA, but as long as they hold. But if they start granting waivers to these kids who are out of eligibility, who are out now going into a portal, then all bets are off. But to me, I'm just nuts about high school basketball. I really am.
Yeah.
I think when you go, and I'll say it this way, it's also heartbreaking for me at times, high school basketball. It was heartbreaking to go into a place on a Tuesday night and there's nobody there.
Right.
There's nobody there. Like these kids are representing their school, their neighborhood, the boys club that they grew up in. And, and but it happens in college games too. Like I did college games this year and I'd be like, where is everybody
Mm-hmm.
For TV? So I would hold strong. I think it's beautiful that with all of this shaking and moving and turmoil in it, I'll put it in quotes, we still have those 2 high school weekends in June. I think that's a really big deal.
Yes, it is.
And we take great pride in running those events.
And you do a great job. These guys in Philadelphia, and think about the 2 guys in Philadelphia that joined together. One guy coaches at a Catholic school, open enrollment, and he can get a pick of the players and has done really, really well. The other guy's an inner city coach at an Africa-centric high school. He's done fabulous work, and they come together to run this. It's the joy of the competition when you go there, because 7 courts are going on, and you guys know, like, yeah, you walk in and you're from Michigan, you go like, oh, I got to go to that court. But last year when I went, when I was not affiliated with anybody, and I could sit and watch, small school Jersey play a middle of the state school from Pennsylvania, and I don't mean this disrespectfully,
Right.
there was nobody on there going to get a scholarship. There were kids that could play college basketball. They weren't getting scholarships to college.
Right.
And it was just, that was really cool. And the coaches are working. There they are in June. You know, I'm not knocking anybody, but I know the Spanish teacher wasn't on that weekend knocking himself out teaching Spanish on that weekend. And yet he could, and sometimes we can't.
That's right.
Come on. We gotta get this. Teachers teaching. What's wrong with that?
Right. You mentioned beautiful. I think the game, we all fell in love with this game at some point, probably very, very early. It's still a very, very beautiful game. It's the state of the game might need some adjustments, as you mentioned. One of the things that I most admire is when coaches can instill in their players the ideals that will stand the test of time, like loyalty, perseverance. You mentioned conflict resolution, which I think is, essential. How do coaches continue to emphasize these values in the state of the game that it's in? Like, is loyalty need to be redefined? Does perseverance need to be reemphasized? How do we teach these values when the game seems to be at this state, at this time, working against those values?
I don't think that any coach, I don't want to dominate this, but I don't think that any coach is worth their salt if they're worried about rules and not foundations. If they're worried about rules and not foundations. So here's a foundational piece to me. Respect. That's a foundational piece for me. Respect. So what's a byproduct of respect? Dave practices at 10 o'clock on Saturday, right? And Dave walks in at 10:10. Well, you just tread on a foundation. And therefore you broke a rule. I had one rule when I was at St. Joe's. Be on time. All other things from there we can work out. But it was the ultimate sign of respect to be on time. You guys are coaches and teachers, administrators. You have to start with that respect. So if you say practice starts at 3:30, start practice at 3:30, right? You can't wander in. A coach can't wander in and say, and the greatest tribute for you as a coach is that your players could start practice because you're in checking on the buses, but they know how valuable these drills are and they could start those drills. So to me, foundations over rules, foundations over rules. Mayan, respect. And then all the things that come with respect. How about this one in just the high school setting? If we could get all of our young people to respect each other's differences, wouldn't we have healthier communities?
No question.
Yeah.
Right? Not respect. Oh yeah, I respect because I go to CB West and you go to Wyoming South. So I'm going to disrespect. No. Just respect each other's differences. There are kids in our schools. There are kids in our schools who are very spiritual. There's other kids who aren't. There are kids who are quiet. On our own teams, there are kids who are quiet. How do you get ready for a game? I want to get focused. How do you get ready for a game? I like everybody to know I'm hyped up. Okay. That's a difference. Let's respect each other's differences.
Coach, I'd like to get Coach Archer and Coach Young to weigh in on this as well, because it would maybe reframe it another way. If a graduate, a student athlete, is interviewing for a job and on their resume or through the interview, the employer or future employer sees, hey, this young person played college basketball, or they played for Coach Young, or they played for Coach Archer. Like, we know they have what it takes to succeed. Well, I wonder if those employers are thinking differently now, not about the coaches in particular, but well, maybe they transferred 3 times, or maybe that they have chased the almighty dollar and it didn't work out. And what kind of player am I getting? So they don't really know the product anymore like they used to. Coach Young, what are your thoughts on like developing these young athletes to to not just interview, but to thrive in life?
I had a kid named Nick Daniels, great player, played for Oakland University. And after his sophomore year, he started really, people started really noticing him, and people were trying to get to him and get him to transfer. And I said to him, Nick, when it's all said and done, where's home for you? Where are you going to come back to? Are you going to, if you just start jumping around, you're not really going to have a home, and you'll never be. Well, luckily things worked out. We had a wonderful relationship. His mom's like, when I talked to his mom, he wasn't going anywhere. But it's the same in college. He graduated from Oakland University. He has 3 homes. He has his home with his family. He has John Glenn High School, and he has Oakland University. He has 3 homes, and all of those people help him because he helped all of us, and we worked together. I would say that don't forget that, where's home for you? And when it's all said and done, where can you go back to? And they know you as you. And I think that's something we can't forget about, right?
And we have to educate. I don't want to jump on Dave's, but Dan, your point is so well stated. And I use the example of this. Where will you go to celebrate your marriage? Where will you go to celebrate your first job? Where will you go? Where will you go when you need to be picked up because you have to tell somebody that your parent or a loved one has passed away? Who's going to lift you up? Who's going to lift you up? And every one of us has had hundreds of kids who come back and say to you, the ball didn't work out. I don't know. I don't know what can I do? Where do they go in the best of times and the worst of times? You are not a hired mercenary. This game is the greatest societal experiment. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Doesn't matter if you're from New York or Michigan. It doesn't matter. If you can go on a court and compete, then you have a place. Male, female, you can find a game. Don't let that game use you. Let the game set you up for that's a great question about interview. Are we teaching interview skills? Yeah. Are we teaching the character? Are we teaching the character? And I'll jump ahead and say, how do you deal with, hey, I'm sorry, we're going in another direction.
Yeah.
So in their greatest moments, they want to come back, right? And they come back. Who do they come back to see? Their coach. And then if they see and I'm not knocking them, because the kids for theater come back and see their director, or the band kids come back right? Because we spend so much more time with all these kids. Great point, though, that they have to be taught the character and the skills that come with being on a team to move this thing forward. Because if it's about playing for you for 3 or 4 years, so what? Anybody can do that.
Right.
But if it's about being an anchor for them at all times in their lives, that's what you guys are in this for.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Coach Archer, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really beyond what we've said. No, I'm going back to what Phil brought up before about having the individual improvement plan for all aspects of a kid's life. And, that's one I think can help the parent and the influencer and the high school coach to be on the same page,
So, coaches, maybe we could end with this question, because the game needs great coaches. And if each of you were to give an aspiring coach some advice, and this coach wanted to have a long, distinguished career in this industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think they say the average career of a high school coach now is 3 years.
Mm.
And in that time period, they're going to tick everyone off, whether it's playing time or the parent or the administration. And you ask most coaches, what's the problem? Parents and administration. and I'm not sure how to get by either one of those other than what we're going to try and do is, and Phil's mentioned it before about educate. Where are we going to go? Educate, educate, educate. I don't know. You read about the situations and the violence in parking lots, and I don't know. That's why we do these, I guess.
I would say, and we'll let Coach Martelli finish up. I would say, at the end of the day, get to know other coaches, get to know other teachers. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, we're all in this for the same reason, the kids. And if you keep that in perspective, I think you'll have a good career. And you'll feel good about what you've done in life.
No question.
My suggestion would be start with this idea: be organized. No one wants to follow someone who doesn't know where they're going. So be organized. So when you go after these jobs and you get a job, you can't just sit there and say, "Well, that's it. I'm a registered genius now." So be organized in how you're going to go about your year, how you're going to go about your month, how you're going to go about your week, how you're going to practice organize. The other thing would be, and I know it can beat you down, but you are the chief energy giver in your program, right? And to me, you create energy by seeking out I don't care if it's a student manager, I don't care if it's the maintenance guy. We've all counted on that maintenance guy, right? Let us in the day after Christmas and go, Jesus, they turned off the heat, right? Right? It's just they didn't process that. The school's going to be empty. But energize your maintenance, your front office staff, your assistant coaches, and you energize people by this. Focus on their strengths, work on their weaknesses, but focus on their strengths. That's the same with our players. And people that get focused on to build through their strength, they get more animated. But we as the coach, organized, energized. And then my last message to everybody is make sure that you do not forget about your own well-being. You have to take care of yourself.
So true.
Excellent. Well, Coach Archer, Coach Young, thanks for leading this initiative. It's a very important discussion. Coach Martelli, thank you for bringing your perspective, your experiences, and your wisdom to this conversation. This is a conversation that will be ongoing because as coaches, as we started this, we are bridge builders and we want what's best for kids. And having this discussion, not cowering away from the problems, but facing them, confronting them, and trying to kind of push through them and take the kids to higher places. I think that's what all coaches want. So I think people will take this conversation and learn some things and help their players and help their sons and daughters really flourish in today's times. So thank you, and we look forward to continuing our conversation. Really enjoyed that conversation with Coach Martelli. He has such experiences, not only as a former high school coach, but certainly as his incredible career as a college coach, head coach at St. Joe's, and now assistant at the University of Michigan. I'm sure he's going to be helping his sons out at VCU as well. But to hear his perspectives on the state of the game, on how to educate, to navigate, was really, I think, an important beginning to this such important discussion that we're going to have throughout this podcast series.
He's tied
Coaches,
in.
your thoughts?
He's tied into so many different parts of the game over time. He really is a man of wisdom in our sport, and he tries to connect to the right parts of us, and I think that's important to do.
Yeah,
really happy.
Yeah, I was that was fun to sit around the fire, so to speak, and talk about what we're trying to do going forward. We understand there's lots of things going on, but it's our responsibility to find ways to improve and to help those navigate this you
Yes.
know, this life we're in called scholastic basketball. So it was very well done and great job by both of you.
You could still feel his enthusiasm. Like he is
Correct.
still at the fire. I love it. I loved his advice. Organize and energize. I love that. That was
Yep.
two great kernels of wisdom that we all can learn from.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Coach Archer, Coach Young, thank you for this initiative. Thank you, your association, Coach Archer, for being like on the front end of this conversation and not only looking in the rearview mirror, but looking at the windshield, looking forward, saying, how can we keep this beautiful game beautiful?
That's right.
And we
Thank
look
you,
forward
Mike.
to this continued conversation.